welcome to the show.
Hello. Right. I'm looking at all three cameras. Hello. Anyway, welcome to the show. This is What About This Idea? You know what I forgot to do?
Inside the hearts and minds of entrepreneurs.
Nailed it. I forgot to grab our old little, not so great little canvas that people would write on from downstairs. I gotta go get it.
That. Downstairs?
It was in the old studio.
Fun.
This is the new studio.
Well, maybe we need a new sign for people to sign.
I think that would be good.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's cute.
Fun.
We've got a guest today.
We have a really cool guest today.
Where?
Okay.
That you don't know anything about, of course.
No.
So I want you to, this is Jen Roth.
Okay.
I am enamored with Jen Roth.
Well, that's high
much.
praise, honestly.
It is.
Juliet has introduced me to some really fantastic people. And what I've noticed, and I'm not just buttering up my co-host here, no, the caliber of or quality of people that you've introduced me to has been amazing. And what I've noticed as sort of thematically across those people is like the genuine willingness to like help out and be a part of a community and to be like not so self-serving. Like everyone's in business, everyone's got a thing to do, but not just strictly, because there are people that you meet where you're like, oh, I get it, you're after something.
Yeah.
You know, and you tend to introduce me to a lot of people who are just after like meeting people.
Yeah.
And being genuine.
Well, we're attracted to our like, and I love to meet people and give as much as I can. And so is probably who I surround myself with.
Yeah. It's totally
And the
it's totally
people
true.
that just want something from me, I usually give it to them, but then we don't have a long-term relationship.
Then you distance yourself from them, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I do as much as I can. I also, I have to say, I do have empathy for whatever baggage people are bringing into the conversation. You know, everyone doesn't have to be like me right now. I wasn't always like me.
Yeah. Were you once not like you?
I was not like, I mean, I have grown. I've evolved.
So can I tell you a story about my dad?
Yes.
That reminds me of this?
Yes.
Okay, I love
So
it.
my dad was an entrepreneur. He has passed away. He passed away of liver cancer, but he was a CPA and he was a lawyer. And I grew up in a small town in Iowa. I have 4 siblings. And he would go around and do taxes. And if we got up early enough, Larry was his name, my dad would let us go with him. And it was like a big, big gift to get to spend like a morning with my dad, you know, as he went and did taxes? Returns at people's houses. And he would like charge one family a carton of eggs. And he would charge the next family $1,000, you know, and he totally charged them based on the work that, you know, what he knew they could afford.
Yeah.
Right? Because he was looking at their tax return. And like, then years go by and then he gets sick and then he closes down his office, his CPA firm and his law office, and watched him continue to do the same thing, right? Go from office to office, home to home, you know, trying to kind of close down his business. It was super sad, obviously, right? Because he knew he was done. Yeah. But also he was still living that way and still doing that. And like, I started that's when I went out on my own, was at that exact time. It was super fortuitous. And like one of my core values at that time was do right by your clients, do right by one another, because it'll all work out in the end. You know what I mean? And it was like super transformative.
What an amazing lesson. Did he recognize that he was a giver that way?
I don't think he had any clue. I think it's just who he was.
He just that's what he was going to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was so cool.
We're all going to end
Iowans.
I know.
People
They're good people.
Yeah.
God's country.
And we're all going to end up at the same point anyway. Like we fight it all you want, we're all going to die.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
You know? And you're going to get there, and what are you going to do? Are you going to have been a good person the whole, like as much as you can? And you're still going to screw up.
Yeah.
You're still going to make mistakes and be human, but,
yep.
Or are you going to just be a jerk the whole time? That's the question.
Right.
Sounds like your dad, for whatever reason,
he did the right thing.
He just had it in his head.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. And it really was like transformational in how I approached my business, because that was kind of the biggest lesson I learned when I left corporate America. I literally had just left a month before he was diagnosed with cancer. And then the nice thing is I had a chance to like work from Iowa and take care of him, which I never would have been able to do had I not switched jobs. And it was just like the whole thing was just like a big old lesson in life.
Someone else who had a similar.
Yeah.
Who was that?
With a parent.
Yeah, and left like Chicago to go to Iowa. to take care of a parent. No, seriously.
Thing, it's the pilgrimage.
I'm drawing a blank.
It's true.
I'm drawing a blank on it right now, but I know that was someone we talked to recently.
Have you ever
cool.
read the book The Go-Giver?
I have not, but I think you talked about this.
I must have.
I need to put it on my list.
It sounds like that's where. So, in The Go-Giver, we tend to think like if you just read the title and you were like you business person, right?
Yeah,
and you read the title, it's like, oh, you know, that softy woo-woo stuff, right? You know, but when you read it, you realize what they're saying is you will win and make money and grow by focusing on giving.
Yeah.
Because you understand your clients better, you understand what they're struggling with, and you know, you have that empathy, and it helps you to serve them better. And so
that's cool.
There's a group of people. Steve Blexrud, do you know who that is? He's shout out to Steve. I'm not going to mention his business because he's not an advertiser. But he's a great guy. He gives
be
everybody.
A giver, Juliet. Be a giver.
Oh yeah, it's anyway. He's.
Maybe later.
Steve. I doubt if Steve even listens. So now this is the test. Steve Blexrud. Are you listening? So he'll come at me, right? And so he always gives that book out. And at first people are like, oh, you know, that's nice. And then you actually read it, and it is evidence.
That's cool.
Not only of what your dad did, but more so how you carried that through. Because, well, tell Sam. Sam doesn't even know who you are or what you do.
I still have a few questions. I do.
You do?
Yeah. But
All
what
right.
you're talking about, do you
ahead.
remember a few years back when There Will Be Blood was the name of one movie. It was a really good movie, but it was about the oil industry. There was an era where we were like making shows and movies about like the golden age of the Industrial Revolution or something. And it was always these super hyper driven guys, men, and they would like destroy anything in their path to get to the destination. Like they just annihilated people along the way. I think we're at a different point.
I think so too.
I don't think that is like highly sought out anymore. And I think that we are realizing that we can all get further and collectively be more whole and decent if we're just nicer to each other.
It's true.
Along the
Exactly.
way. Like, you don't have to annihilate your enemies.
You do not. You do not.
You don't have to make enemies of everyone around you either.
don't.
Like, it's not a zero-sum game or
Yeah.
whatever it is that.
Well, that's funny you say that because yesterday I put out a post, a LinkedIn post.
Oh, I saw it, yeah.
I put out a post that talked about, you know, there's a pause in hiring right now, and it's like this weird thing that happens every election. Right?
Yeah,
And so I put out a post, and I put it out not just on behalf of AvidEdge, but every staffing and executive recruiting.
Yeah.
And I tagged a bunch of people that I respect in the field, and it's kind of blew up because I was talking about us as a community, and we don't often act like that.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Good for you.
can't be constantly in competition. It takes a lot of energy to be
There's
in competition.
plenty of work to go around.
There really is.
When
Plenty
you
of money.
act as a community and you do right, do right by your clients and your community, it all works out in the end.
I love that we started a conversation this way.
Okay, but I have a question.
Okay.
Okay.
So you said it was a treat to get to go with your dad
Yeah.
to these, what would be, I assume, considered quite boring by normal
Yeah.
kid standards.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm sure the meetings, I'm just curious because I am a
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah.
And I got to spend I spent 10 days walking with my two boys who are 17 and 15. And I won't go into that story
you.
really, but it was awesome. And at the end we did it last fall and we did this fall, and we walked from our home to our land up north, 240 miles in total.
Wow.
And everyone's like, what was the reason? And I'm like, oh, well, there wasn't actually any reason when I first started it. It was simply a kind of a bet I had made with the kids. Like, someday we should walk up to the land, and they held me to it. But
That's really cool.
the last day of it, I finally, when we got up there, I was like, you suckers didn't realize, but I only did this so I could spend days with you. Because kids don't.
They don't want to spend time with their parents.
They're like, shut up, Dad. But I'm like, no, seriously.
Yeah.
I just tricked you in 20 days over 2 years. You spent with me.
Right.
No one else.
Right. It's totally true.
But I have an 8-year-old daughter who, for her, every day she could spend with me, no matter how boring the thing I'm doing, it's a treat.
She wants to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, is that kind of what you were getting at?
Yeah. And there were like 5 of us, right? And so you kind of fought for my dad's attention, and so whoever got it, it was never like a contest, but
No.
it was a treat because you never really got to spend time with my dad. And he was just a
Did
good
he
guy.
do fun things with you, like?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so now that we're done with the boring part, let's go get breakfast
Oh yeah.
together.
Or
or
go
lunch.
get breakfast, go get ice cream.
Yeah.
Go, and if you went up to the bank, you could get a Coke out of the machine, and you could play at the typewriter and play Office with real typewriters and real. Because I'm older than dirt, so that's what they had.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just really stuff that you didn't normally get to do. It's just mostly spending time with them, right? Take you to the drugstore and get you a Coke or whatever. It just was.
But the simple act of like getting a Coke with a kid,
Right.
And that's maybe changed, but not really. Like the thing is the same.
The thing is the same.
They crave just a moment of your time that you're spending
It's
connecting directly with them.
And when it's older, it's when they're older, it's so much harder. I feel like I have to take them to like France to get them to spend time with me now.
I've done that.
My kids, yeah,
I've
literally
actually done that.
Like, oh, you don't have Wi-Fi? Shoot, right? Right.
Oh, your phone's don't work
cool,
here.
Mom, but I just booked myself a way out of here.
Right.
You've raised a smart kid.
Yeah.
I can get myself out.
On your dime.
Right. Exactly.
Well, anyway, so that's it. I mean, that's just a cute part of the story, though, that you enjoyed so much spending just those mornings doing taxes with
I
your
know.
dad.
Well, and
of
you'd
all
go to
things.
these homes, and they'd give you.
Yeah.
You'd read a magazine, or you'd watch TV, or you'd get a special treat or whatever because you were Larry's daughter, and so it was just fun. There was just weird. Maybe that's what Iowans do.
No, it's not weird.
But
I
it was
think
super fun.
An incredible memory, especially since Larry is now your angel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
And I know I have a buddy who they have a jar that their kids put things that would be fun to do in the jar.
Okay.
And then they have like Force Family Fun Days. And then you draw 3 things, and then the family votes, and then you do whatever it is that you pulled out. And so,
Do they end up
your
with good
8-year-old would
things?
say something, then your 15-year-old or your 17-year-old, but whatever it is, you draw them and you get to go. And sometimes they're expensive, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're all over the board, but it's like, what a great idea. Like to have
I've done things like this with kids in the past, and I've always been amazed at like when you open up to them, like when you say, listen, I'm being super honest, and everything's like, it's right out there in front of you right now.
Yeah.
Anything you want to do, we can do it. And you're thinking like, oh my God, they're gonna come up with something crazy.
Right.
And they're like, they pick the simplest,
Yeah. I want to go fishing, Dad.
like least confusing thing.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, but I'd do that on any day. I'm talking like think big. And they're like,
Oh, my daughter would. I think I could take her to the mall, and she'd spend $50,000 in 5 minutes.
Sure.
So I could not offer that up. It'd
You
be
could have
terrifying.
to put parameters.
Yeah.
there's an age after which they probably
Yes.
shouldn't offer that.
But it's fun. Yeah. Very cool.
Cute. So grew up in Iowa.
Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately your father passed away. That's life.
He did. Yep. His life.
How old was he, just out of curiosity?
He passed away in his early 60s.
So not nearly old
Young.
enough.
No.
Yeah.
No. But that's okay.
It,
He left a lot of memories and
Yeah.
good family and all that fun stuff.
nothing that can be done about it, but that's
The way it
unfortunate.
goes. Yeah.
Why did I assume before you said what he did? I just assumed he was a farmer.
Oh, because Iowa.
Because Iowa. Yeah, you say Iowa, and it's like,
That's rude. I shouldn't do that.
I don't know that
there are
it's...
people
We
who
lived
do
on
taxes
Main
in
Street,
Iowa.
Juliet. We lived on Main Street. We were a big
Ooh,
deal.
That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, Main Street anywhere in Iowa. Clearly the business side of town.
Clearly.
Some old Victorian house.
Yes. I
Yeah.
actually did live in an old house.
Did you? Yeah. Oh, funny.
And so now, you said you worked in the corporate world. it's no offense to you corporate folks. Let's give it like just a minute. Where'd you go in corporate land?
I went to college at St. Ben's.
Okay.
And then ended up
St.
moving to the
Cloud?
cities. Yep.
Okay.
I moved to the cities and got a job at United Behavioral Health. Actually, it's at Cigna before that. But really, most of my career was at Ceridian, which is a huge HR payroll benefits company.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, they're here, and I was in marketing and product management, and then eventually led global product marketing, and then led their EAP work life and behavioral health division. So it was a very
Louise.
cool job.
She says it like she was a secretary.
Yeah, actually,
I was
ironically, I started as a secretary
really?
because I did not want to go back to Storm Lake, and I could not get a job, and I was one of the only people that knew how to use a computer, and so they hired me as a secretary at
the old days.
Cigna. And it was like a big deal.
And they were like, wait a second,
just sat there on a
what do
desk.
we have here?
Yeah, pretty much.
Look we got another gal who applied. Secretary positions.
I bet she knows how to type.
Yeah.
Maybe she understands what these newfangled computer
Exactly.
things are.
And now look.
Yeah,
Yeah. So then I spent most of my time at Ceridian, and then I had 2 young kids, and Ceridian went private, and I was traveling all over the place, which I love to travel, which is one of my businesses that I have now. But
what do you mean one of your businesses?
Home. Oh, I have 2 businesses.
Okay.
But
What do you mean? Is it one of them travel related?
one of them is travel related. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But I left Ceridian and then started my own business, and I've been an entrepreneur ever since. And like I said, that's when everything happened with my dad. So it's just kind of the way.
So what inspired that shift? Was it your dad being sick? Or?
It was. I think most people probably do this, but I was looking at like my priorities in life, right? And it was like, by all like measures, I was a success,
I know
right?
so many people who go through this.
Yeah, except for the part where I was never home. And my husband was great, and he was super supportive, and he was a fantastic dad, still is a fantastic dad. But I was never there, and that was not the life I wanted. So when Ceridian went private, it became the perfect time to be able to just say, you know what, I'm going to take my vested stocks, and I'm going to try something different. And then that's when my world as an entrepreneur began. And so then now I have 2 businesses. One is Blue Sparq Marketing, and that is a marketing agency that focuses on working with small and mid-sized businesses to help them grow. And, hugely passionate about marketing. It's like in my blood.
Can I give you my usual BS sort of like almost angry at marketers kind of thing? Are you going to be okay with this?
Yeah. Probably.
Why is all marketing
If
bullshit?
not all.
No.
That's not what you were going to say.
No, it's not even true.
Some
Why does it feel sometimes like it is, though? Because marketing is one of those things. We have dealt with this on other shows with other people in marketing.
Yep.
I'm coming around to how it all works, but I know I'm not alone in feeling this way, so I always like to do this to like allow people to understand where marketing actually can work for them and how it does do that.
Yep.
It's one of those spends that are, it's like, do I really have to do this? And then when I do it, I get this strategy back. And then how does it actually, like, who does the thing that this person just strategized that I should do?
Yeah.
Thanks for giving me the blender, but I don't know like what a blender does, and I don't have any fruit. I don't know what to put into a blender.
Right.
So who helps me with that part where I get a smoothie out of this fucker?
Yeah.
Like I want a smoothie, and you gave me a blender, but nothing else.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, or you hire the people.
Really?
People put that on the spot.
It is.
Wow.
Just
Did
on
you
the
take your
spot.
lion's mane today?
Or the other problem is people hire the people that can start the blender but don't know what to put in the blender, and so then they're stuck because they don't have the ingredients.
Well, it's like what happens, I think, is that people get into business because they love to do the thing that the business is, right?
Right.
And then they realize they also have to do taxes and bookkeeping and all this other stuff. But marketing, I think, especially to people who go into a business for that thing they like to do, marketing is, so as soon as you put the feelers out there, all of a sudden there's all kinds of people coming at you. Like you need pipeline
instantly.
generation. You need videos. You need LinkedIn. You need strategy. You need to post. You need to, and it's like I can't do all that
No, you
stuff.
cannot do all
right?
that
And
stuff.
how do
Yeah.
I discern
Yep.
which company is actually going to help me?
Yep.
Right? And so I think that's one of the biggest questions we
I
usually
think that's
get.
a really valid point.
It's
Is you
like,
get nailed with
so much.
because marketers are
You do.
good at marketing themselves.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly.
Right?
It's true. Yeah,
So not
it's true.
everyone, like the bookkeeper down the road is not great at marketing themselves. When you need the bookkeeper, you're like, do you know a good bookkeeper? And they're like, well, I got this secret bookkeeper over here who doesn't take any new clients, but because of you, maybe because I know you, they'll take you in, but they don't need to market themselves. They're
Right.
full.
Right.
Yeah.
But marketers are like, the minute
Yep.
you peek your head around the corner, they're like, I got one of my sites.
The only people that are worse is sales.
Oh shit, the marketers are coming. Sales, yes. These
Sales is almost, well, I shouldn't say they're worse, but they're, yeah. So our model it tries to solve exactly that, because I agree with you. Like, I can't tell you how many times we've received clients who've spent tons of money on stuff that has
Yeah.
not worked, and I feel bad for them. Or people will spend money, they'll spend $200,000 for a senior marketer,
Yeah,
and they'll have a
right.
strategy and then nobody to do it. Or they'll hire this like anxious, hungry, awesome, younger person who will say, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Or they hire an agency who only does digital.
Right.
And so, of course, everything is about paid digital. Or they hire, it's exactly what you said.
Exactly,
So,
right.
so like what our model is, for better or worse, is we start with a strategic marketing plan, which is like $6,000. So like we don't charge very much for it, because the goal is to figure out exactly what it is that you really are trying to do.
Yep.
Right. And then based on that, then I would say we're almost like a fractional marketing team. We will execute it on a monthly basis based on a budget that works for our clients.
and this is for like mid-size.
Mid-size and small-size businesses, yeah. And so the reason why that works really well is like you can say, I only have $5,000 a month. It's all I'm willing to spend. But what I really, really need is 5 leads a month. Okay, we can get, let's think about how to get 5. And it doesn't mean we'll suggest paid media. It doesn't mean we'll suggest organic social. It doesn't mean we'll suggest a complete rebrand, which I hear all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, do they really need to rebrand? Do they really, really need to rebrand?
Right. Like, is that really
why
gonna
are you
fix the
even
problem?
recommending that? Right. And so to me, it's like, I can just tell you, having done this for a million years, I can tell you exactly when I meet with a client whether or not they're going to be successful. And there are 2 things that drive it every single time. One is they really know who they are. Like, and I always say it's unique to you, important to your customers, and provable. And they really know who they are. And the second thing is they have good leaders.
Okay, so
And if they don't have good leaders, they may
Explain
get
for me
to
what
a little
no-
ways, but
So do in that case, do you say, I'm not sure we're the right fit for you?
sometimes I do.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
the
you have
thing is,
to.
it doesn't do
Yeah.
any. I never ever want a client that doesn't want to work with us.
No.
That's not good for anyone.
Right. They should be leaning
they
into
should
you.
want to work
Yeah.
with us, and then those are the ones we do the best work for, and they're the ones that are the happiest. So it's just a win-win.
I did construction forever.
Yep.
Right. And and even at the camp thing that I dare not mention most days on the show.
But we do mention it.
No, but in both cases, like accepting a client just because like I need the money and I'm going to take
Yeah,
the client, it didn't ever pay off
right.
actually.
And it does not pay off because
No.
it ends up not being a good fit.
like
Yep.
if a client came to me in the construction world and I saw that we weren't the right fit for them, I'd say,
Yep.
here's the people that I know that do the work that you are actually looking
Yes.
for that would be
Yep.
great for you. Same with the camps.
Yep.
Your kid is not a great fit. It's not like you're not a great kid.
Yep.
This camp would serve your kid much better.
Right.
So then
And
you
guess
do that.
what? You have a happy. Yes, that's exactly what we do. Because
Yeah.
if we're not a good fit, and I can give them a recommendation that is a good fit, then guess what? They're happier and they'll remember us later.
Everything works out
and
better that way.
and we don't end up with unprofitable business where my team's frustrated and so are they.
Yeah.
Right. And so yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say, just like objectively, right?
Okay.
And I do think you have to have that lens of when you hire an agency, or when you hire a single person as a small and mid-sized businesses, it's very hard because marketing has a lot of disciplines and it's really hard to be good at all of it. And
It's
so
too broad.
the whole fractional marketing trend that's happening makes a ton of sense.
It really
because
does.
you don't need a 40-hour-a-week copywriter. You don't need a 40-hour-a-week web developer. You don't need a 40-hour of anything, right? And so being able to like outsource that and get the right skills at the right time makes a lot of sense, whatever model you choose. Whether it's hiring fractional workers and managing it yourself, whether it's hiring an agency who does it, whatever it is. But I do think if you like point solutions, you need to have somebody on staff that understands what it is they're trying to do with their marketing strategy, right? Meaning like, okay, so I know our biggest issue is awareness. We need to build awareness. Or I know our one big goal is, which, is like a pinnacle thing, but, or if you use EOS, like what is your primary goal, right? Your 3-year vision. And if it is to grow to 5 million and sell, that's what you should be working. Your marketing effort should be tied to that.
Exactly.
Totally.
And so your agency partner or your fractional team or your head of marketing, whoever you hire, needs to be solving for that, not for, did I get $250,000 in opportunities that didn't convert through a paid digital campaign? Like that's not helpful.
Yeah, right.
No,
right.
right.
Yeah. So
When you say, I just want to break down that one little part where you said that they really need to know themselves.
Yep.
Now, I'm just assuming that you mean the business needs to know
The business needs to know themselves.
itself.
Yep.
And when you say a business needs to know itself,
Yep.
like any thoughts on what leads someone to like get to that point?
Yeah.
Because that's like, I mean, shouldn't you just know yourself? But I understand how that isn't always the case.
It's not always the case.
Like you're trying to solve 6 different problems. You need to focus on one thing.
Yeah.
I think I do this sometimes, but so find that one thing that you're really
good at and that you really, that's unique to you, important to your customers, and provable.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to figure it out is be honest with who you are and what you do and why you're in business, right? It's good planning, but also ask your customers. Because we do a lot of research, and so especially if we are doing branding or naming or messaging, and where we'll talk to 5 customers, we'll talk to 5 prospects, we'll talk to 5 internal stakeholders, and we'll put it all together, and we call it 360-degree research. And then you'll come back and you'll ask each one of them. You'll say like, what do you think you're best at? Where do you think there's opportunities? Why do you win? Why do you lose? You ask the customer, why did you choose them? Why do you stay? And it's so interesting because that will tell you. That'll give you that intersection, right, of what you think, what your customers think, and what your, the marketplace thinks. And you can even throw competitors in there if you want as well and see how you're positioned against them. But if you ask your customers, and you can't ask them, you have to have someone else ask them because they won't be honest with you.
That's right.
So it has to be someone else. But you do an interview with them, it's worth its weight in gold because you get to hear how they really feel and what really keeps them up at night and why they did choose you and why they stay and what they think you could do better. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that would be super helpful, actually, to have. Well, true, but to have an outside because otherwise, like I'm staying up at night trying to figure out
what the
answers to those questions. And when you're too deep inside the thing,
you don't know.
You can't look at it from an external.
You probably see everything you think is broken or wrong. And you probably don't see a lot of the things that are really right. And they're there. And it's actually really rewarding to get to present it back to clients because they're always like, aw. And almost always there's like 1 or 2 people that just stand out as stars in the company, whether it's a 10,000 employee company or a 100,000 employee company or a small company, right? It doesn't matter. Like that one person will just come up over and over again. It's pretty
And sometimes that person doesn't even know.
Usually they have no clue. It's usually like the implementation person or the.
I used to do that. I used to do social network analysis, right?
Oh, yeah.
In
So
organizations to bubble up those informal leaders. And we think we know who they are. Like, you think you know who they are. But the truth is that you don't. I don't know. Now you're making me itchy.
I know.
The truth is we don't know who they are. Because once we're up here at a strategy level, we don't really know who's going to who. You don't really know it. And it's incredibly important for a couple different reasons. One, when you start at a company, it'd be nice to know that right away, as opposed to like waiting 1.5 years to figure that out. And then also when you have to make changes, who do you protect? You might be just looking at an org chart, and that's not going to tell you who's the power player.
That's true.
Yeah.
And the other thing I find, and you probably do too, but and this doesn't necessarily have to do with marketing, but if we are doing like stakeholder sessions or any type of meeting, oftentimes like the quietest person in the room is the one that has the most to say.
Yes.
But they don't say it, which is why I like doing internal stakeholder sessions privately, because sometimes that gold is just sitting with someone who just won't say it in front of everyone else. And so it's kind of cool. It's fun.
You have a fun job.
I do have a fun job.
But what's this travel thing?
Yeah, so the travel thing.
What's this travel thing?
It's kind of a passion project, but it's also a startup, and I totally love it. And it's called Wise Blue Yonder. And so it's a web site / travel blog / future platform to help people with disabilities travel. And so I know. And you really don't know anything about this, do you?
No, I know nothing. No.
So when I was 9, I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay.
And so I've had like 14 surgeries and 8 joint replacements and whatever. It's just been like my life, right? And I love to travel. And I actually got to travel in college. I still can't believe my parents let me do this, but they sent me over to London to study abroad for a semester with literally a huge bag of medicine and said, good luck. I'm like, I would never let my kids do that. Like, I know.
Old days. That's what happened.
It was crazy.
And
but
you lived right through it.
I lived right through it. And now here I am.
Yeah.
And so throughout my career and just with family and friends, we've traveled a ton. And I absolutely love it. But I'm here to tell you, when you have mobility challenges, it's not always easy, and the information that's available is not accurate. And every AI agent in the world cannot help you. And, they will, sites will say, we're accessible, and then you'll get there, and they are not accessible.
Right.
And I
hate
can
that
walk.
about the world.
I know. I hate that about the world too, which is why Wisely Yonder exists. Literally,
Need to move into sort of like a post-website world, because you think everyone's like, it's like this cop-out where you call someone and you're like, hey, I've got this issue and I need to know what the thing is. And they're like, just check the website, it's on there.
Right.
It took us 20 years to build that thing. Like your information is really old. And the website doesn't work and I can't navigate it.
The other thing I wonder too, I remember when okay, I'm dating myself, but in the 90s, I used to work.
So you were like
building
8?
technology. Yeah, right. It was when I was 8. I was like a prodigy. I used to work setting up technology for school districts. It was just right around that time when the internet and computers were. I think schools were finally realizing that they're not going away. They needed to actually
we got to figure these out.
Yeah. But with the web, I remember it feeling like a euphoria. Like this is finally going to bring truth. Like
all the information's going to be there.
We won't have to argue about what's true and what's not true. And it feels like I got duped.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where to find real information anymore.
Yeah.
It's certainly not on Google, or it's certainly not the way I'm asking Google.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like there still has to be an opportunity for truth.
Yep.
And that's kind of what.
And that's that's the platform
doing.
part of Wisely Yonder. So right now I would consider myself like an amateur travel blogger, where I go around and I do kind of videos and reels and stories, and I just share my experiences.
Awesome.
And I'm super involved in Facebook, and which is where most of our travelers are, because they tend to be, 45 to 65 plus years old.
Yeah.
And so Wisely Yonder is all about helping people with mobility challenges and disabilities travel. And so I've gotten really connected in the disability travel space, which is fascinating. It's like a $42 billion industry.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
And that doesn't even include, that's for people who are in chairs.
In chairs, right.
Yeah. And that doesn't include their companions. And so there's all this discretionary income and to be used for travel, and really difficult ways to use it. And so that's what Wisely Yonder is trying to help solve. But for mobility, so you don't necessarily have to have a disability, but you might have, my husband always says, I have a hitch in my giddy up. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do.
That's a fair way
to describe a disability.
I know. He's like,
and you're not alone in that. And there are a lot of other people for any number of different reasons who have that same sort of issue.
Yep. And so the idea is to just, in a perfect world, we plan small group trips. That's not in a perfect world. That's true. Yeah. But, you're able, I'll give you an example. We went to Phuket, Thailand, and I actually went through EO, which is actually partially how I know Juliet.
We were talking about that today, actually.
Yes, I'm in EO. But we went there for the Global Leadership Conference, and it was in Singapore. And we went over to Phuket, and we did this elephant sanctuary. And within the elephant sanctuary, I showed up and with my little hitch and my giddy up, right? And this lovely guide B was like, Jennifer, I got you, girl. I'll take care of you. And she just would take my arm and march me through whatever. And the minute you get there, an elephant comes over and hugs you, and you're just like, oh my gosh, catch a jump start. Yeah, don't knock me over, right? But then when it came time for the walk through the woods, of course, I could not do that because it's up and down and all around and whatever. But neither could 4 other people. And so an opportunity would be for the 4 or 5 of us who couldn't do anything, bring over an elephant, do something special for us, right? So but then let the people who can and want to do that, who are part of the group, go do that, right? Because I travel.
And you're not going to find that offensive or whatever.
No, gosh, no. But what gets old and embarrassing is when you're sitting there on the bench for 2.5 hours while everybody else is on a food tour of historic Barcelona, and you're like, oh, I totally want to sit on this bench for 2.5 hours. I'm fine.
And just wait for all of you.
Right. It's super fun to do this. But I mean, of course, you're not going to make everybody sit there with you, but you want to be included, right? And so our goal is to create trips that allow everyone to be included.
And nearly everything, or at least having trips.
Not to.
So have you done some trips?
So we've planned a couple trips.
Yeah.
So we still need to take the trips.
Okay.
And we do have clients who we book travel for. So that part we've done. So you can call as an individual. So we have a travel concierge where you can call and say, this is my situation, and here's where I need accommodations, and then we'll plan just like a regular travel agent. And what's interesting, and I did not know this till we started this, but you do not pay for travel agent services. Like, it's no extra money to book through a travel agent. Did you know that?
I know, because they get things cheaper.
You get paid, yeah, exactly. They offer all sorts of discounts to like the cruise lines and the hotels to the travel agents. And so they pay the travel agents, not the travelers. So
that was always the case.
So why don't we use travel agents?
I just didn't know that. So I just wonder why more people don't use them.
Because Expedia and the rest of them came along and made it sound like this is the easiest way to do this.
But it turns
travel
out
agents were always that way.
Yeah, they were always that way.
You always got better deals.
You get upgrades. You get way better. I even book I went to Iowa on a college visit with my daughter this weekend. You can book a hotel through the travel agent license and get a discount and an upgrade and get commission. Not saying everybody should go be a travel agent, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
And it didn't cost me any extra money, right? So anyway, I digress. But we'll do that, and then
I'm going to start a travel company.
I don't know if this is a digression. Sounds like information people need to know.
I want to start a travel company.
Everybody go start
do you
one.
think that your small group travels will be in a place that is generally inaccessible to people with disabilities?
Well, the idea would be it would be accessible, but we would be able to kind of bridge the gap where it's not accessible and be able to have those trips where, okay, so if we're going to, London, actually, I love London. It's one of my favorite cities, but it is not very accessible.
It's really bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And so what you would do is you plan a trip so that, if we were doing a, whatever, what would we do? Trying to think, Buckingham Palace, right? So let's say we're going to Buckingham Palace. We would plan something so that the people who wanted to go on the 3 or 4 mile walking tour could do that. But then there would be this other, situation that we would arrange or, have arranged in the ones we planned, where then you'd have somebody who come do a presentation, or you could do a wine tasting, or you could do.
Perfect.
So you basically just
I would go with the drinking.
Yeah, right.
Definitely.
I know. And then you can pick and choose, but you're not sitting on the bench.
Duh.
I've always been.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised. I remember when the Segway came out, right? He was going to create something so disabled people could actually walk in a robot thing.
Yeah.
What happened to all of that? I feel like we didn't
I
put.
don't know.
Is being disabled not sexy anymore? I mean,
actually, it's the opposite. It's totally on trend. Inclusivity is totally on trend.
It is.
Which is cool to see. And so as people are getting more money for renovations, as a general rule, it's not totally true, but as a general rule, they are actually making infrastructure more accessible. And again, we're just talking about mobility. There are sensory issues. There is hearing impairment. There is sight impairment.
Yeah.
There is, it's really, in my opinion, it's just unfair that we built a world where not everyone has access to the same things.
Well, in this day and age, I can understand in the Roman culture.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure, because
we weren't that far removed from Roman culture 20 years. No, not 20. I shouldn't say that.
We have made a lot of progress.
50 years ago. If you look back at our American history, 50 years ago, women were like, but why can't I get a credit card? Because you said that I'm putting you in an institution. You just said that I'm putting you in an institution. It's my right as your husband to do that. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, but the thing is that white dudes are also disabled. So we probably should.
They are. I know some really good ones.
Like Kurzweil did some good stuff for the deaf people with hearing impairment.
Yeah.
And also the guy that did this segue. I really thought we'd get somewhere.
Yeah.
I really thought, because we have so much
you know
technology.
what's funny about the Segway is like, if you can't, I can't get on one.
No.
You know what? Because it's like I'm not stable or steady enough to get on it.
can't get on
stop
one.
it
I don't
and
think I can
start
do it
it. So
either.
it's like, how about a tripod where people could actually get
How
on
about
it?
something that doesn't just have
Yeah.
a couple little wheels on the bottom?
Right.
that-
Something that like
looks
But
like
didn't
it's
he
gonna
make
kill you.
like an exoskeleton?
yes, there was yeah.
But
yeah.
really, though, I mean,
But it
is
didn't
it
take
really going to be? Are people really going to want to be like, I will come with you? Hold on a minute. Like
Segway.
that?
I mean, but you think about the technology now. We have
Yeah.
robots who can move smoothly to music
Yeah.
and play violins and all that
Yeah.
stuff. It seems like we could be
Do more.
augmenting.
Yeah.
But we also, I mean, they were also pitching flying cars and stuff, and the just the noise generated by anything that does all of these things takes away some of the joy of all it.
We have flying cars now. Have you heard about the helicopters?
The little helicopters? Yeah, that's going to be great. I can't wait for them to be buzzing all over the fucking place. It's going to be great. Oh, Jesus!
It's a teenage driver. No,
I just don't see it.
no, I agree with you.
I just
and
feel like we should have. Flying
Yeah.
cars, I know, is always the thing we say, but
Yeah.
we really have taken technology so far. I mean, just
and left the whole disability
Oh, and
scene
that-
behind.
but
you were,
does.
but you were
Yeah.
saying it's
Yeah.
getting better.
It is getting better, and there's like so. For example, Delta Airlines is launching a new airplane that has now a wheelchair can be wheeled in and strapped in, and they have wheelchair accessible restrooms on
Yeah.
the plane. That is huge,
Unbelievable.
huge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Go
and so
Delta.
yep, go Delta.
Advertise
exactly.
with us, Delta.
Yeah, yeah, and
What about
like
this
celebrity.
idea, Delta?
Yeah.
I got an idea for you. You get where I'm going with
I
it.
get it.
Anyway, I agree. And then my biggest pet peeve is you'll go somewhere and they're like, oh, we can't do this. It's a historic building. I'm like, okay, I just walked through the gift store.
Yeah.
And the modern restrooms that work fine and the water faucet, but you can't put an elevator in for people who can't walk
Right.
up there. Like, how come you can do that part? And they always look at me like, I'm not in charge, ma'am. I'm like, I know, but I feel like you have to tell people.
Do you log all the complaints?
Right. But then you go to certain places and they do it. So like, I think it's the Parthenon. They have an elevator built into a cliff that's absolutely gorgeous. That's all glass that brings you
in
up.
Greece?
Yes. And it is amazing. And it's like, and they've got like they'll pick you up in a golf cart. They'll bring you up to where the elevator is. They'll let you go up the elevator, but only if you need it.
But
and I
might I
think that's
suggest-
awesome.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
It's a great idea.
Might I
That's a great
suggest that it's
What
not,
a great idea.
What a great idea.
it's not the technology or the lack of technology that's going to drive the change, though. It's the business opportunity. It's always the business
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah.
So the
think there's a
technology
huge-
exists, but it's going to be. I mean,
You're 100% right.
Is it fair to say
Yep.
that once these places realize they can make more money
Yep.
because they can get
Yep.
people in there who want to spend their money with
Yep.
them,
Yep.
that they will make those changes? Like,
Yes.
is that?
I think it's fair, but I have another interesting story. So we were in Min Cup. Wise Beyond was in Min Cup, and we were semifinals,
cool.
which was super cool. So I did some fundraising, and the investors that were the most interested in Wise Beyond were the younger investors. And so if you read,
hope.
there's
There's
hope. So the younger population believes in a world, generally speaking, believes in a world that is equal.
Yeah.
They believe in social purpose, and they just think it's just the way the world should be, and it's really, really refreshing. And so, yes, for sure.
I remember being idealistic once.
Right.
But it's good. It's
It's
good.
really good.
It did
Yeah.
change you.
No, it did.
It's generational, and I even think about like I think I've been trying to noodle while we've been talking.
Were you scaffolding
would
around
it
the noodle?
Why would it be not mainstream? And I think that there was a big push during war times.
Yeah.
To help,
Yeah.
Because we were very veteran loving
Yeah.
at the time. I think we're kind of getting back there, but
Yeah.
we were very and there was so much disability coming out
Yeah.
of those wars. But then you look at we're a global world now,
Right.
And you look what's happening
Yeah.
in several countries.
Yeah.
Where we should probably take a break.
Oh, yeah, we're
way over.
That's good.
But you see, the world is going to need it.
The world does need
and
it.
if we're
Yeah.
if young people out there, I'm talking to
I
you.
mean, that's the bulk of our audience.
Yeah, really. No, most everybody, they talk to your kids. But if there is a spark of hope, I would think, and we're a global community, that we start to see that we can use.
Yeah.
We can use this power for good.
It's true. And, I have a friend who, he was in an accident. It's a cool story. He was in Florida. He's from Boston originally, and he decided to join the seminary. And he drove to Kansas City, and on the way home, he got in a car accident that was so bad that they did not think there were any survivors. And he lost both his legs and one of his arms. And he has gone on to be like hundreds of thousands of followers, major influencer in disability travel, amazing guy. And he tells a story often that he'll sit in a lobby at a hotel, and 9 out of 10 people will choose the ramp over the stairs. So why don't they just build it that way in the first place? And it's like, oh my gosh, that's totally true.
What a concept.
Because like everyone picks, if you're given the choice, they pick the ramp. Whether
Even if
you
it's
have
longer.
Even if it's longer, either you have a stroller or it's you have a roller bag, or it's just plain old easier.
Yeah. Right.
And so it just was
you're
an
shuffling
interesting
that
point.
day.
But in the old days,
Right.
it would have been like, look at all those sissies going up the ramp. Take the stairs,
It's true.
I hate ramp people.
I can totally
True.
see that.
You know what I mean? Like there was
Yeah.
just too much machismo.
I do. All right, well, let's take a
Yes.
break. Let's
Okay.
take a break
Okay.
and come back.
All right.
All right. So
What are we going to dive into? What do you want to dive
Yeah,
into?
the second half. Who knows?
Something.
Who knows? You never know.
It's a spooky month.
Oh, it's
It
nearing
is.
Halloween. We can
Yeah,
do.
something spooky.
Okay, sounds
Okay, all right.
good. Really setting it up there.